There actually is a bit of news kicking around purple.
Yeah, there is, Jim. There is. And we might start with what's about to now unfold with the tribunal. As we know, with Isaac Rankin being hit by Dan Houston in the showdown on Saturday night, we know that Michael Christian sent that through to the tribunal. I don't see a way that Houston can get out of it being at least a 3-week ban, Bill, and the extreme would be 6, obviously.
What about the careless conduct and not intentional?
Yeah, look, if you are going to defend him, the actual act itself, where it didn't make contact with the head, it would have to be part of your argument.
Yes.
But what weight will be given to that and how that actually unfolds, Jim? I think we've seen enough of these situations to know that you are responsible for the ramifications of the action. And as much as I am sympathetic to Houston the way he went about it, he did make contact in a way that did leave Isaac Rankin concussed. Has anyone got a different view than that on it?
The good bloke? No. Can you throw up the good bloke
Well,
thing?
that was used once this year with Charlie Cameron when he actually wasn't as good a bloke as they made out at the tribunal when they went through his record after the event. And no, that won't be used either. So, and as we know, the backdrop to the whole thing is Victorian person who now wants to explore, prior to this incident, a return to Victoria to continue his football career. So it may well be that he has played his last game for Port Adelaide. But we'll get to know tomorrow night, and then they'll have the access through the appeals tribunal to take it on. We've also known too for some time that Graham Wright was most likely not heading back to Collingwood. Made the decision after the premiership last year as head of football operations there to have basically a 9-month overseas vacation, which after 35 years of involvement in footy, he was well entitled to ask for and be given. It was never going to work, though, in terms of being able to do that and then come back, because they decided to change their structure, the Collingwood Footy Club. They made Justin Lepich and Brendan Bolton share effectively the responsibilities. There has been some teething issues with that, and that's not said as a negative. It's just two guys who have very different views on some aspects of footy. It's a healthy debate, but ultimately we get to this stage of this season, they're going to miss finals most likely, Collingwood, or at least left themselves a massive task. They need results to go their way beyond their own going into it, and you get a situation where Graham Wright, Bill, is very, very highly respected at Hawthorn initially as an administrator, then at Collingwood. And
he just had enough of what he was doing?
No, he had enough of working for continuation of working, and he's decided to take a holiday.
He had a holiday, but there's talk that he goes to the AFL. And
I think he'll certainly go to the AFL. And the Collingwood Footy Club is actually half. I mean, I spoke to Jeff Brown, and he was on record as saying that the AFL would benefit from his services if they can't bring him back in. But
maybe the Tasmanian side.
I feel that will be the role, Bill.
Because he's a Tassie boy.
He's a Tassie boy, and that will be an AFL job, won't it, really? I mean, Brendan Gale is going to head that up as Chief Executive Officer. The connections to Tassie of Graham Wright, I think, make that a no-brainer at this stage. And if it's not the Tassie role effectively or officially, there is enough to do, I think, in the AFL football department itself as it moves out of 2024. There's a couple of
good starters there. I would have thought Jimmy Boy with Benny Gale and Graham Wright. There's a couple of nice little...
Good.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see what Nathan Buckley may want to do in that coaching space
too. You still think he's...
I believe he wants to get back into coaching, Bill, possibly. Now, whether he wants to subject himself to like a West Coast Eagles style of... open slather process, I doubt that, but I feel if someone wants to just offer him a job, and the connection to the youth aspect of this new team in Tassie, it does appeal to him, given he had a past before he became Collingwood coach as a coach of juniors. Will Day, good news and bad news. Good news being that it wasn't a collarbone broken yesterday in that game at the MCG against Richmond, but it is still a damaged collarbone, and look, he has been so important this year. We know the Hawthorn story, but he missed those 5 matches that they lost at the start of the year, Bill, as you probably do know. His personal scoreline this year is 12 wins, 4 losses. Yeah. So that's how instrumental he's been in what has happened this year. They've also, in the past, I'd say 2 months, worked out a way where they're not reliant on him. They're not reliant on anyone, really, that club at the moment. But I still feel he's their best player. He's the reigning best and fairest winner. Started the year with an injury and is now finishing the home and away season with another injury. He's doubtful, yeah.
It was funny seeing him walking down Swan Street. Was it Swan Street?
Is it Melbourne Road where they go these days? I saw the vision.
And he had the Hawthorn number 12 jumper on, shorts,
got into his
socks,
car,
and just jumped in a car.
Yeah.
People are going, is that Will Day?
I did notice that myself,
It's strange, wasn't it?
Once you've done that, it's hard to get your top off, I'd imagine.
Well, that's
significantly pain. Have to cut it off. Yeah, exactly.
Did he have his boots on, Bill?
No, he didn't have boots on. He had socks on. It was just strange walking down the street.
And Max Gawn was speaking today on Triple M Morning Show. As we've learnt as the days unfolded, Christian Petracca has addressed his Melbourne teammates. This has become a messy situation. And as much as Christian Petracca has been dealing with a lot of stress in recent months, I feel he's contributed to some of it. I mean, Tom Morris a week ago reported there was a disgruntlement element to his time at Melbourne as to what had happened post that serious injury sustained on King's birthday. He's the most active player that we know on social media in 2024. He has chosen not to address any of the claims made. And
you haven't heard one thing from him.
Not one thing. It's very easy to nip in the bud these matters. Now, we get to the Monday after the report last week and he's addressed his own teammates. Even that is a strange scenario, given that they clearly weren't in on the knowledge of what he's been going through. So, look, hopefully it might be a turning point for them. They had a good win on the weekend against Gold Coast, and no coincidence that Jack Viney and Max Gawn both had big roles in that win as leaders of that footy club, the former captain, the current captain, and someone who they will clearly want to keep.
So was it a meeting called by Christian Petracca?
Not aware of the origins of it, Bill. I just am aware that he has spoken to players today in a way that
How many players?
Again, I don't know the full details of it.
Where was it at?
Oh, at the club, I believe.
I know. What?
At the club, I believe.
Righto.
Yeah. But he could have done that at any stage.
Yes.
After.
Where was it at?
Are the players not happy with him when he took off to Noosa?
I'm not aware of that, Bill. He went to Noosa. I think he can do what he wants. I mean, he's recovering quite seriously. But clearly there was a communication.
Going to Collingwood.
There's a communication breakdown, which he has contributed to himself. And maybe he's chosen to have that breakdown to get to this point where it is all now panic stations and to see what happens.
What did Max say?
Frown he gets
I know.
What
did Max say?
Ask Max. To turn his back.
What did Max say on the morning show then?
Obviously, there's the track stuff, and I'm in open dialogue with track, and I don't see the build-up that's happened with track. He went away for 9-10 weeks he went away for 4 of them to Noosa. Obviously, he had to spend a few weeks at home early on after the surgery, and I'm happy he did that. Like I'm happy he went away. And any player that is struggling mentally with anything that's going on, doesn't have to be the ICU 2 weeks that track had. Can be just a rolled ankle. Like anyone that's struggling, more than happy to grant sort of leave on that as well.
So what did he say, Bill? After all that, nothing. No, glad we threw that.
I just wanted to know where it was and who called the meeting. There's some interesting questions there.
Are there?
Yeah.
A very ordinary piece of scheduling by the AFL for me.
On the Sunday coming up?
Mike, the one just gone.
Actually, the Sunday just gone.
3 bottom teams.
Yeah. We'll talk about them in negatives, I think, Jim.
Well, no, we will, but that's you can't have that. You can't schedule. When you can reschedule the last 6 games or whatever
which
it is. Which they did do. You can't have a Sunday where the bottom 3 teams play.
And
they're horrible games of football.
Unwatchable games of footy for the neutral supporter.
JB and Lululemon Brownless.
Yeah, old Lulu. Old South Yarra Brownless.
That's it.
Yeah, we had a good look at that on Saturday Rub.
Lululemon, Damien?
Yes, I do, Bill.
Good.
We discussed it Saturday too on the first segment of the Saturday Rub.
Bloody good golf gear, Lululemon.
Nice.
Talk about golf off air. Yeah, this golf stuff's great. Nice. All right, so where are we going here, Purple?
Hard to go past starting with Paddy Cripps, Jim, with what he did yesterday over at Optus Stadium.
Captain's game.
I know he's won a Brownlow medal, Bill. I know he's had a lot of very good football in 205 games of AFL
Is he heading to a
career.
second one, do you think, Purple?
He's up there again, Jim. Yeah, I feel I can't see how he doesn't get another 3 yesterday. And just the leadership component to it. There's only 12 kicks amongst the 35 disposals, but it was the presence and the ability to just win those balls in the first half when that game was set up to be won. And as we know, they took a depleted team over there. There were 2 players playing first games. There was another who'd been only in a game of football through the experience as a sub. They all came together. Brody Kemp, who did have a junior career as a forward at times, was used as the key forward yesterday and looked good there. Kicked 4 goals as part of his game. And I love what he did early in the game. Had a shot at goal early and then kicked a goal late in the first quarter. Just, I think, reassured Carlton that they could get the job done. And I also love what Jacob Wiedering did down back too. There was an authority with which he played down back.
Jeez, he's been a good
just
player.
to complement what Paddy Cripps was doing in the middle. There are other good contributors, but those 2 I thought were really outstanding. And
Carlton overall, well done.
Yeah, well done, because what it now does do, at the very least, Bill, it gives them the right to control their finals standings now. They've got a game against St Kilda next weekend. They win that, they're in. And that wasn't going to be the case had they not won, obviously, against West Coast yesterday. So well done to them. In a similar vein, Zach Butters' performance for Port Adelaide in the showdown on Saturday night was quite extraordinary. And again, I feel he is going to be right up there in Brownlow medal counts again. But 42 disposals when you know that you are the focus of the opposition game plan effectively. I know they've got a few options there. Jason Horne-Francis, Connor Rozee as well in that midfield. Dan Houston also. But
did they tag him?
Did
I
they
didn't see the
Peter?
game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what he's also
42.
been able to do, we had him on the Sunday Footy Show yesterday, Bill, and he's really conscious and cognizant now of the fines that he's copped in his
Yes.
career in footy. He's the most fined player of all
He is.
time, and the public commentary around it, and Kenny Hinkley sort of saying publicly he needs to pull his head in. I'm paraphrasing, but they want him to get better in that space, and he's aware of it. And even when Dan Houston did hit Isaac Rankin and the skirmish that blew up, I saw him go in there, but he went in there with keeping his arms down, and he well, we might find out. No, there was no fines out of it. He just controlled himself, but he controlled the game of football with 42 disposals. So, well done to him. We touched on this on the Saturday Rub on Saturday after the Friday night game, but Isaac Keaney, for the second week in a row for the Swans, has just transformed their season, which was sputtering, but they almost can't lose top spot now, Bill, as we know, on the back of those 2 wins. Collingwood in round 22 and Essendon in round 23, and both wins on the back of what Isaac Keaney had done after half time. The last quarter of the previous week, it was the entire second half, I thought, against Essendon, and it just takes great leadership to do that, and he's done it. Jim, I know you're a massive fan of Sam Darcy, and people keep talking about how good is he going to be in the future. How good is he going to? How good is he right now?
He's
And
a
how
star.
good could he be in the next 5 weeks remaining? 1 home and away game, and potentially 4 weeks of
So
finals.
here's the question I have: where is he going to play? Because he's enormously damaging forward, but he sees himself, as I understand it, as a ruckman. He wants to.
Does he?
He wants to be the next
Well,
Max Gorman.
I'd leave him forward for the moment.
I'm with you.
Exactly right. But also, that's
7 goals, just to
7 goals.
sign off on what he did against North Melbourne yesterday as part of the Bulldogs' 96-point win.
Well, and kicked 1 goal 5 last week.
Yep.
Yeah.
So he's having plenty of shots at it. But the great thing is, you can throw him in the ruck.
And he
even-
loves it. Grits his teeth. He
Yeah.
loves the
He's got a
combative
bit of
nature of that
shit in him.
position.
Oh, he's got a lot
lots.
of it.
Yes.
A lot of it.
Or you can throw him down back even if you had to. So.
Well, he started. Well,
Yeah,
so he
he
had
did.
periods down
Yeah,
back
he
in
did,
his
yeah.
first. It's only in his third season,
know.
as we know. I think he would have been seriously challenging Harley Reid in the official Rising Star outcomes had they both not got suspended in the same week. I know he's a third-year player. Harley's a first-year player, but he's still eligible until he got suspended. But yeah, I don't know
he's a
who's
jet.
going to stop him because he can even be off balance at those incoming balls, and because he's so tall and reads it so well, it just doesn't matter.
clunks
them.
He clunks
hands.
them.
Yeah,
Jesse Hogan, love what he's done all season. He's now broken 10 goals clear in the Coleman, so that's a given that he's going to win the Coleman medal. 67 in total, 6 on the weekend against Fremantle, 6 goals, 4.
Yep.
He's just had an outstanding 2 months of footy too. It's not just the entire season, but a particular isolated patch there.
But look at his body purple. He looks like an AFL
Spot
footballer.
on.
Yep.
He hasn't always. He does now.
No.
He looks like he's taking
on.
himself seriously.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he clunks them now.
Oh, magnificent.
Doesn't he? And he's
superb.
going up the ground a bit, taking
Yeah.
marks.
And Matty
There's
Lloyd-
another player on that side. If you don't mention him, you're going to get a punch.
I'm going to mention him. Brent Daniels.
Yes.
Yes,
Well
very, very good performance. I gave, for what it's worth, the nod there first to Jesse Hogan. But 10 shots at goal, 6 goals in a win that was quite
Well,
narrow.
you're giving votes now, eh?
I felt that he was better than
look
Brent
at
Daniels
that.
in the
I know, he's
context of
angry
that.
today.
What's going on with you,
Why are
Tom?
you
What
giving-
is wrong with you?
That's
Why are you
why.
giving votes?
You're a bit off on the rap too, I thought,
Yeah.
today.
It was only just a
So I've tried to lift it.
What about the joke? How did you hear that?
No, I'll hang around for the joke.
Hang around.
I might hang around today. I'm going
2
to
hours.
do a bit of work out the back, yeah. So I'll hang around for the joke. I've heard it's good, so I'll hang around.
No,
And just some quick sign-offs on other positives too, Jim. Nick Daicos' game for Collingwood against Brisbane Lions. They need results to go their way there outside their own
Can he
control.
win the Brownlow?
Yeah.
He
Yes.
can,
Yeah.
can't he?
Well, he was in front, having missed the last 4 games last year with the last round upcoming
Mate,
last year. And
he can win it.
I think it's a
Of course he
similar
can.
season.
No doubt
Darcy
about it.
Wilson's had a really good year for St Kilda. First-year
Yes.
player, did really well against
Oh,
Geelong
no,
on
I'll give
Saturday
you
night.
one. Callum Wilkie, All-Australian again, no doubt.
gotta be.
He's a
He
bloody
could be, Bill.
star.
Yeah.
Oh, he's in. He's
Yeah,
in.
he's
Putting him
he
in.
certainly had a good 2 months.
Yep.
John Newcombe for the Hawks. We touched on Will Day yesterday's performance, but that was a very even performance by the Hawks. But I love what John Newcombe's done in the back half of the year, and we did touch too on Jack Viney's performance for Melbourne against Gold Coast
Did
as
you
a
see
positive.
the first 15 minutes yesterday, that Hawthorn game? Richmond kicked the first goal. Next 15 minutes, you've seen nothing like it. They kicked
7
7
goals.
goals. They just went bang, bang, and virtually 7 individual goal kickers. They were kicking them everywhere. Gee,
They
they were
embarrassed Richmond, which we'll
they
get
were
to
good to watch.
on the other side of this with the
See that
negatives, Bill.
next. And the negatives.
Yeah, you wanted to touch on this a while ago, Jim. We'll get there now. The Sunday scheduling of round 23, you had dreadful games from that neutral football watching perspective.
And
Richmond,
these are 3 clubs, Damo, that were on the bottom of the ladder
When
we rescheduled
Yeah.
the final bit of the draw.
yeah,
How
just
you
to
putting all
remind people,
3
I
of them
think
on
we're
a
up to
Sunday?
round 15 or 16, weren't we, at the
Yep.
start of the year? And then they had the matchups, but not the actual assignment of days.
No.
And they then did that, as you say, on the run. We saw North Melbourne get beaten by Western Bulldogs by 96 points, and that was a bad enough game. And then we had Richmond, as you said before, Bill, just get blasted away by Hawthorn.
Game over
and
early.
we're okay after that, but it was unwatchable for a lot of it. 63-point loss, and then West Coast, who started a short-priced favourite against Carlton, were just blown away. They were
4
competitive
goals.
for most of the first quarter, but beyond that point, they weren't, and ultimately lost by 65 points.
Kicked 4 goals, they did, West Coast.
And they were lucky
Wowee.
to kick those.
Hey, what about this Sunday being the last home and away, of course? And if things go right or wrong, Freo and Port Adelaide game could be a dead game. The last game, couldn't
it
it?
starts late, doesn't it? It's a
6:10.
6:10 Melbourne time start on that game. If Carlton does lose, though, to St Kilda the previous day, Bill,
that's on Sunday.
the previous match,
Yeah.
there will be a lot at stake in that game.
Yes.
For obviously Port Adelaide in terms of where it finishes on top 4 perspective, and equally, it will then just be very simple. Fremantle win that game. If Carlton loses, they're in.
Yes, right.
So there'll be a heap at stake in that case.
but
But the Blues have to win for that to be the case.
Blues have
Have
to
to
lose
lose
for that
to
to be
St
the
Kilda,
case.
but
Yeah.
if the Blues win,
Then
Port,
it's
they
done.
know they're going to come second, so they could rest players.
Well, there's that scenario, isn't there? Yeah,
They
which
really
is what the
could.
AFL tries to avoid.
Just quickly, Purple, the Herald Sun are reporting that Shai Bolton has formally told the Tigers he wants to be traded.
Back to Perth.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hasn't nominated a club, but
Yep.
is that brand new news or is it?
It's been in the flow there for some time, and Rioli's the other one that I feel will also ask for that trade to the Gold Coast Suns, and they've just been a mess of a club for some time, and I say that because of Brendan Gale, who has been more instrumental than anyone in what they did in their success. But he, in May, decided and announced publicly that he wouldn't be there, and I understand why the club said, look, please stay around for the remainder of the year, but there's no one looking at the big picture, and there's no one able to sell Richmond Football Club to even people that are there, let alone people who aren't there. So this is a quite a dire situation with them, because the whole Dusty Martin thing played out, I think, badly in terms of the messaging to their own supporters, and we saw what happened there a couple of weeks ago. You've now got a bloke who is on a long-term contract wanting out, and probably the best player on their list in Bolton, and the unknown now goes to Daniel Rioli, who also is, now Bolton's got a 28 contract and Rioli's got a 27 contract. Wow. So these are guys who've made commitments to the club. So they're well within their rights, the Richmond Footy Club, to hold them to those contracts if they want to. Brisbane Lions has shot itself in the foot from a top 4 perspective in the past fortnight.
I did not see that coming.
No, I didn't either. Look, you can almost forgive them what happened the previous week against GWS, where they had done enough to win the game of footy but didn't. GWS surged. Equally, they had done enough, Bill, with 7 minutes remaining, 3 goals clear of Collingwood and lost. Add those 2 games together, they've gone from top 4 chance in their own control to outside of it going into the final round. And
after winning 9 in a row.
Yeah, and only got themselves to blame because of the missed opportunities, particularly against Collingwood on the weekend. And Fremantle's in a similar bracket in that. We just touched on them and what's at stake for them in that last game of the season. But the one that's going to really hurt them is the loss to Essendon 3 weeks ago. That was the one that they just should not have lost. They then lost to Geelong at home last week, and then the GWS, they were really gallant, and that needs to be said. But the wiggle room was not there for them on the back of those 2 previous losses. And you need to factor in that the fact that Tracy's out, that Pearce is out, and also Darcy is out, and they're big, important players for them. But ultimately, the absences of those 3 players is not the reason they've lost those games. And they have to live with that, and they've now lost the control of what they want to do. We touched on Essendon on Saturday. There's not much more we can say. They've lost 5 of their last 6 to close the season. And if you want to extend that form line out, it's actually lost 6 of their past 8. It's a dreadful close to the 2024 season, as it was for 2023. And they've got a lot of soul-searching to do on a lot of levels beyond that.
Since the bye, they've won 3 games, yes.
Yeah.
Spot on, Damo. West Coast, Collingwood and Freo.
Yeah, and it's just left themselves with no wiggle room. And then just 2 other disappointments in that negative sense, Bill. Adelaide, to get to this stage of the season, to still be 15th with only 8 wins to their name, wasted season. I'm putting the Gold Coast Suns in that same category, Jim.
Hard to argue.
14th on the ladder.
I mean, they were a Keys celebration away from a final last year.
Yep.
And everyone thought, I thought, well, the natural progression for them is that they'll probably bottom half of the 8, but they'll end up in there somewhere and play a final.
8 wins and 1 draw only to this point. And again, look, you can see some aspect of what the future could look like, but equally I take the view that they've just blown a season up, that they shouldn't have. And Just one more, Bill. Geelong now losing to St Kilda. They were 33 points up at half time and then just did not.
What happened, Fat?
I don't know. It was
I
just,
don't know what happened.
they
Honestly,
just stopped and they had
the
no
Saints
answer.
got going through the midfield, and actually, well, that's the problem with the Cats. Let's be honest; their midfield has struggled all year, and they struggle again. If Danger and Jeremy Cameron and Tommy Stewart don't play well, the Cats are in trouble.
Pretty much how it works.
Yeah.
They've got the luxury, though, of still being fourth and
Beat
having
West Coast
at home in the last game. What that will mean, I don't know.
No,
but
I
if
don't
they were
know.
to lose that, it would be a shock. So they are likely to play Sydney Swans in the first week of finals, and you wouldn't rule them out, weirdly enough.
Bring it on.
Yeah.
Melbourne have had a disappointing year, haven't they?
Oh, very. Yeah.
They really have.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yep. Like they have. But they've had injuries to factor
Every
into
club's had
the
injuries.
conversation. Serious ones.
Yeah, righto.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, all right.
Nice.
All right.
Purple.
Anything else?
I
You want
like a
another
3
segment?
helping.
Just make the joke good one today, please.
All right.
I'm
You're
going
gonna
to hang
hang
around.
around.
I'm going to hang around.
All right.
I've got to do some work
I
at the back.
find that astounding.
I've got to do some work out the
wouldn't.
back. So
I'm on this show and I don't want to hang around.
Do you like
Bill's
the Rolling
angry today,
Stones?
I know, look at him.
actually, what has happened to you?
It's faux anger.
Oh,
Go
yeah.
and have a
It's always-
coffee down to Main Street, the main road.
The main road.
Go and
Main
see
road.
some Lululemon.
We're a little